way. So the purpose of this is really to kind of go through a couple of things. Just go get, if you guys can just mute, that would be great. And then if you need to ask me any questions per slide, just put up your hand, or we can just do questions towards the end. Okay. It shouldn't take me too long. It should take me 15-20 minutes. But it's just an opportunity for obviously me to speak to you guys as a bit of mass, and you can, people that aren't here can watch back and stuff like that. But it's been a subject that's been coming up quite recently regarding nutrition timing, and I know it's quite big at the minute within the industry. Now, a lot of research and a lot of coaches think different views on it, so you will hear different textbook stuff. I've been listening to quite a few things over the last couple of weeks, to be honest, and everyone, you know, I think we just form our own intake with the information that we get from, you know, research, and then we put it in as we call bro chat, which is kind of our own language and our own practices and stuff. So I think coaches are just taking what they want from it and practicing it and putting it in place whenever they feel fit. And you know what? I'm kind of doing the same myself. So depending on what clients have got, you know, and how many calories that client is on, whether they are in progressive season or if they're in a low calorie deficit, I think it's just going to depend as and when you would use nutrition timing to best suit you as an individual. And I'm, you know, that's how I'm approaching nutrition timing. Me personally, as an athlete, I will be putting this into place when I next compete in my prep season. And the reason why I do this is because it's new research that is out, and I think it will really benefit time and nutrition around training and stuff, which I've never known that before. My coach is a believer. In fact, I spoke to him this morning on the same subject. He believes that nutrition timing, it's not a load of BS, but it's kind of like it is where it is with nutrition. Like you can play around with it, you know, and when you have your nutrition, it doesn't really matter too much. And I think it just will depend again on the individual, how many calories they've got to play with. You know, if you've got someone who's on 1,200 calories and is trying to nutrition time, and I'm talking like, you know, levels of, you know, some use it in the group. I've been on that low calories before. That's really hard to time your nutrition round a certain window, and whether that would be beneficial to you. So it would be up to me as the professional to obviously put this in place for you, so you wouldn't have to make that decision. Does that make sense? Yeah, little hand. Okay, so we're going to move to the slide. So I'm just going to try and break it down in categories just to best explain it. So hang on a second, let's get Andy on. Someone just joining. Just wait for Andy to come on. Evening, and just okay, just done a little introduction so far. So if you just put yourself on mute, that would be awesome. So basically, protein timing your protein is massively important. It's massively important because a couple of factors. Let me just move you over. Yeah, sorry, just moving over. The best time to protein synthesize protein is definitely every 2.5 to 3 hours. And why we do that is because it gives you protein synthesized. So it basically utilizes the protein throughout the day and it stocks you up accordingly. If you're having a protein in the morning and you're having a protein in the evening, then obviously your body is going to be deficient during that gap, and then you become catabolic. And obviously we know in the group that, you know, what the difference between catabolic and anabolic is. We don't want to be catabolic, and the reason why we don't want to do that is because we are going to risk of losing muscle tissue. And you know, it's got all knock-on effects of that. We will just literally become fatigued and tired. So it's best practiced, if you're going to plan your protein, to have protein between, you know, the 2.5 to 3 hour mark. Now, the best way that I would say is to do that per serving. So if you're struggling to eat your protein, then divide your protein in servings, and, you know, look to have in your serving at least 30 grams per serving. 30 grams is more than enough. It's like a fistful of chicken, if you can imagine, on your plate. You know, that is a good amount to digest. There is research out there that says that, you know, I keep saying the word BS. It stands for bullshit, by the way. So the fact that you can't digest no more than 30 grams of protein, you can. So it's just best practice if we break it down into 30 grams per serving. If you've got somebody who was on like over 200, you know, 250 grams of protein, then they would have to, there's no way around it, otherwise they're just going to be eating every hour. They would have to have a bigger serve of protein each time. So it just depends on how much protein that you have. Then you can then divide it, like, for example, you know, you can divide 4 servings of 30 grams, and that would generally be your protein intake. But if you're on the larger side, you would just divide it by another serving, so it'd be 5 servings, and it's much better to obviously then share your protein out throughout the day, because you're going to make sure that you're not at risk of losing any muscle tissue, you're not going catabolic, you know. And protein also, let's not forget, keeps you fuller for longer. So if you are on a low calorie deficit, it's definitely going to be beneficial to time your protein. Increases protein synthesis and increases amino acid. I keep saying amino acid transportation. So yeah, it just transports your protein properly. That's basically what it is in a nutshell. Any questions? No? Okay, don't know where Andy went. So fats timing. Now, this one is probably up to debate. There is no way of explaining this, but fat basically helps absorbs the essential nutrition. So protein, fats are best with carbs. So this is why they do suggest that if you have a fat and carby meal pre-workout, this is going to benefit you, because the fats will help absorb the protein and break it down. Obviously, as we know, fats are an essential fatty acid that we need for hair growth, skin growth, look after our eyes, our nails, and they are really, really beneficial, especially during hormonal. So, a sec, Andy's just trying to join again. So it's really important that obviously we get both essentials in, you know, fats and protein and carbs within your plate. The best thing that I can suggest while we're on the subject, if you are planning your meals and you're new to planning, most of you on here today and are already used to it, but seeing on your plate, so a fistful of protein, which is 30 grams, you know, seeing some carbohydrates and seeing some colour, and the colour would come from salads or fruit and vegetables. That's the best way that you know you can pre-plan your meals. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. So carbs are always the topic of the subject. Carbs can be timed in an efficient way. Again, it all depends on, and I've put it in there, dependent on your calories for the day. So again, if you've got somebody who's on a really low calorie deficit, then you wouldn't have much to play with. So I have done this in the past with athletes that are on really low calorie carbs, and it's really difficult to time it around training, because that would be best used during time of your training, but it's not always possible. So if you're on a really low calorie deficit, the best thing to do with carbs is just to literally weigh them out throughout the day, so it's spread. So, you know, obviously it keeps your energy levels up, glycogen, glucose within the muscles. You can do it if you're on a low calorie deficit. You can do it so you fast as long as possible, and you would break the fast with some protein and a bit of colour on your plate, like we spoke about, and then maybe introduce your carbs. If you were doing like an afternoon training, you could do it that way. But there is, you know, there's massive research and different views on timing your carbs. Personally, if you are in a progressive stage and you've got quite a few carbs to play with, the best practice would be to have a pre-workout meal, which would consist of carbohydrates and fats, and the fats will help absorb the carbs. If any of you want to ask the question, and this is, you know, a subject, would you have protein in that meal? Then I wouldn't. I'd skip the protein because it's going to be more beneficial for you to have the carbs, and you want the fats to absorb the carbs if you're going to have it pre-workout. If you've got loads of calories to play with, the best thing that you could do, especially if you struggle to get carbs in, would be to take a carb intro workout. That's during your workout, and that would be your ideal, because whilst you're working out, you're getting a source of carbs, and you can have it in the source of a drink as well, which is pretty cool. You wouldn't be expecting to be a bowl and a spoon, you know, while you're training. I'm not expecting you to do that. You can get it in a drink form, and now that would be, you know, someone obviously who's got a lot of calories to play with. Definitely not one that hasn't got any calories to play with. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but sometimes you might see somebody in the gym who's munching on a rice cake or whatever. Sometimes that is because they are nutrition timing carbs. There are products that you can get with carbs which are drinkable. Ideally, then you're getting a perfect ratio of nutrition time and going through your system. So whilst you're training, you're getting the right amount of energy, and you can fuel that workout, and that is the whole idea of that. Also, Andy's trying to come in again. Post-workout window. So after you have finished your training, post-workout window, the best time to get your carbs in would be, you know, anything from 30 to 60 minutes after your training. That is when it's super responsive. Your carbs will act as an insulin spike. So as soon as you eat your carbs after that, that would be best. But again, it depends on how many calories that you've got to play with. But generally speaking, when we've done a workout, if we worked out hard enough, we're hungry for that meal anyway. So that's when your protein would come in as well. You know, some of you guys probably done this yourself or seen others as soon as they're coming out of the gym or a workout, the neck and a protein shake. And that is kind of the idea of it, because they talk about different windows of that, but it's generally not. It's, you know, within 60 minutes after your training, that's where your body's most responding. That's where you're getting the most fat cells, and you're burning the most, you know, they say after 90 minutes of your exercise, and your fat response is really high. So utilize that time, get the fuel in, and it will actually go to the right part. So I always call them cupboards, don't I? So it'll go to the cupboards, which are your muscles, and use the fuel for exactly what you want it to do, replenish glycogen and glucose in your system. How much you could just, it's a typical question that I always get asked, how to get calories in, especially carbs. Now, you know, I might give you a quick tip during your check-ins and stuff, but dividing your calories by 4 to 5 meals, if you're doing self-tracking, obviously on MyFitnessPal, it just works out a lot easier to, you know, to process that many calories, depending if you've got the calories to play with, obviously. Has anyone got any questions on this? No? Okay, so the benefit of timing meals around training, increases glucose intake, increases amino acid transportation, reduces muscle breakdown, and increases muscle protein synthesis, increases blood flow. So they are all the, you know, the top science that have come out that obviously is going to improve nutrition timing. Again, it all depends if you can do this. The biggest thing for me, nutrition timing, is recovery. So I would definitely practice this if you have got a lot of calories to play with. If you haven't, then you're just going to have to do it so it's spread out and you're getting closer to it. That would be definitely, I would definitely recommend that. But nutrition timing is, you know, it's been massively spoke about throughout the industry right now. It's a bit of a hot subject. A lot of people, and again, a lot of coaches are sitting on the fence about it. I'm still learning about it, and I definitely will practice it myself, as you know, even during my prep and my off season. So obviously want you guys to start really, you know, even if you have to read up on it about yourself, but it's definitely going to help recovery and get us better results as well. Okay, so has anyone got any questions at all? No questions for me.
I missed a lot of that show.
I know you
I
kept.
think
You
I think you
coming on.
joined me back in 3 times. So I missed quite a bit of that. But in summary, are you basically saying that you kind of split it all down into 4 meals to try and make it quite equal about the amounts of everything that you're having in each of those 4 meals?
Absolutely, and that is the best practice. You know, eating every 2.5 to 3 hours is definitely going to give you all of that. You know, all of them benefits of the recovery. You know, increased muscle growth. You know, it's definitely going to help with insulin spike and stuff like that. So instead, you know, definitely spread it out. I was just saying at the beginning of the group, which you missed, but with it being such a hot topic at the minute, all the coaches are still trying to find their way with this. And it's the science have just released a new paper on it, you see. So some are sitting on the fence about it. I agree with it to a certain degree. But I'm gonna practice this dependent on the client. So if I've got, you know, I obviously look after athletes, so it would definitely benefit them. You know, during preps and stuff like that. If I've got, you know, general population, it might not be, but I also want you guys educated in it, and I want you guys to make your own, you know, if you're self-tracking, even if you follow one of my nutrition plans, I want you to learn about it yourself, and, you know, just to have the advantage of learning about nutrition timing is going to be really important. So say, especially for example, if you were going out and we're going for meal times, you know, we're going when we can go for a social meal. Feels like such a long time. You know, when we do the protein modified fast, this is when nutrition timing, that all comes down to the timing of nutrition for us to be able to go out for that social meal. It's the same, you know, it will be the same thing. So I want to practice this with yous, and, you know, have yous explore it, and you know, use feedback to me. I tell you what, this has really worked for me. My recovery's gone up, and I want to see the data start to go up if it goes down or it hasn't really affected you. So you know, I know that other coaches are going to be experimenting as well.
I just sorry, I don't want to, yeah. So I've been kind of practicing this, just to split it down. You can do it on MyFitnessPal. It tells you the percentage and stuff like that. So the only question I would have is from a pre-workout, post-workout. So I heard you talk about post-workout. I didn't hear about pre-workout.
Yeah. So
is there any benefit in having something X amount of time before a workout?
Yeah, basically I was saying to the rest of the group, but ideal, if you want the ideal nutrition timing to benefit you around training, so that's better for muscle growth, muscle recovery, protein synthesis, blood flow, everything, you would literally practice a pre-workout which consists of carbs and fats only. Skip the protein, because it's not going to, the fats will absorb the carbs and help synthesize it, basically to utilize it, to get it to your muscles so you can use it in the gym, so you fueled your gym. Now you would do that, you know, an hour before your workout. Then during your workout you would have an intro carb supplement, which you can get in a drink form. But this again is if you've got enough calories to play with, because it all adds up. So, you know, having an intro carb workout meat, like drink, if you like, that helps just keeping it filtered in the system. So it's replenishing it all the time as you train hard. But it's the best result for muscle growth and recovery. And then you would have a 60-minute window for post-workout. That would literally be your ideal.
Got you.
So I would definitely recommend that, you know, those that are in progressive season, if you like. I'm definitely going to put that in place for my own personal benefit, because I've learned enough that I feel it's going to benefit me, because you know, I like to train in the late afternoon, so it would actually work out better. But if you're getting up in the morning, maybe if you can force a breakfast down, yeah, and you've got enough time after, that's why I say ideal, because it's not everybody's ideal. like, you know, you see the bodybuilders, don't you, going, right, I need to eat, right, I'll go, like clockwork. Well, we can't live like that because we've got lives and we've got, you know, rotas and shifts and kids. And so this is why, you know, I'm not saying that's what you should do, but it's definitely worth being educated on it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Joe, have you got any questions?
Yeah, like I was just gonna say, like, were you saying there about working out like later on in the afternoon? So if you're working out first thing in the morning, what's your thoughts on like fasted HIIT or fasted cardio in the morning, or would you still try and get your fats and your carbs in before doing that?
No, different story, Joe, with yourself, obviously, because I'm aware of where you're at in terms of your calories and stuff. Absolutely fire away, get your fasted cardio in. And just while you're on that subject of fasted cardio, also the recent research have now said that there isn't much benefit from doing fasted cardio than there is doing cardio at any time of the day, because it's still burning the same amount of calories.
Yeah.
So, you know, whether that works, some people say it works really well for them. And I think that's more a mental thing, like they get up, they haven't eaten, they've gone out and some, you know, they've gone and done a run or they've gone and done cardio, they feel great then. So that's brilliant. That works for them. So
I think for me in the morning, it's just if I'm doing a workout and I'm jumping around my living room first thing in the morning, I don't want to be doing it with a full stomach.
no,
it
exactly.
makes me feel a bit sick.
For you, I'm happy for you to continue the way you are, because that's actually a perfect setup for you. That is your ideal. So you get up, you get your scruffs on, you get in front of the telly, you get it done, and then you start your breaking of your metabolism, because you know what it's like. If you've broke your metabolism in the morning, you then become hungry like half an hour later. So you could afford to do that, train and then start your metabolism, because back to what I said before about pre-workout, it is your best time to respond to nutrition. So that breakfast would see you really well, because it'd go in the right places and it'll give you that energy that you need, rather than, you know, if you're just having a normal breakfast on,
Yeah,
you've burned calories and your body's still burning calories at that point. So that would be perfect.
okay, cool.
Yeah. Okie doke. So any other questions?